My name is Sarah Bennett, and the cop touched me during what he called a suspicious person check outside the Nellis Air Force Base commissary in Las Vegas. Not a handshake, not an accidental brush. His hands went to places no professional interaction would justify. My lower back sliding to my hips, fingers pressing against my ribcage too close to my chest, his palm flat against my stomach in a way that had nothing to do with identifying me, and everything to do with power and violation. I was loading groceries into my car at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, still in civilian clothes after a 14-hour day of flight simulator training. Jeans, a plain t-shirt, tennis shoes. My flight suit was in my gym bag in the trunk, my helmet bag beside it, my ID and credentials locked in my glove box, like always when I'm off duty. I just finished loading the last bag when Officer Marcus Doyle approached, his hand already on his weapon before he'd even spoken. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the vehicle." I turned, confused. "Is there a problem?" "We've had reports of thefts in this parking lot. I need to verify your identity and your right to be here." "I'm a base employee. I just finished shopping at the commissary." "I need to see identification proving that." I reached for my purse in the front seat. My ID is in my "don't reach for anything." His hand tightened on his weapon. "Step away from the vehicle. Now." I stepped back, hands visible. "Officer, my identification is in my purse. I need to retrieve it to show you." "I'll retrieve it. You stay right there." He walked to my passenger door, opened it, started going through my purse without asking permission. Pulled out my wallet, flipped through it, studied my driver's license like he was examining a forgery. "Sarah Bennett, Nevada license. Says here you live in Las Vegas." "Yes." "So what are you doing shopping at a military commissary?" "I work on base. I have commissary privileges." "Doing what?" "I'm employed by the Department of Defense." He walked around my car, studying it, a 5-year-old Honda Civic. Nothing remarkable. Looked at the groceries visible through my back window. Looked at me, his expression showing he'd already made assumptions about who I was and whether I belonged here. "You got a base ID?" "It's in my wallet, the brown card holder." He pulled it out, examined it briefly, then pocketed both my license and my base access card. "I need to verify these are legitimate. Wait here." "You're taking my IDs?" "I'm securing them while I verify your story. Don't move." He walked back to his patrol car, left me standing in the parking lot while other shoppers loaded their cars, while the sun set and the temperature dropped, while he sat in his vehicle, making me wait. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Other base security vehicles drove past, actual military police who would have verified my ID in 30 seconds. But Doyle waved them off, keeping this stop to himself. When he finally returned, his demeanor had shifted. Not less suspicious, more predatory. He walked too close, invaded my space, positioned himself between me and my car door. "So you work on base. Doing what exactly?" "Administrative work. Personnel management." "Uh-huh." He was close enough now that I could smell his cologne. "You married? Got a boyfriend?" Red flags everywhere. Relationship status had nothing to do with verifying my base access. That's not relevant to... I'm just making conversation, trying to be friendly. He smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "Pretty girl like you, shopping alone on a Thursday night? Seems like someone should be helping you load groceries." "I'm fine. Can I have my IDs back?" "In a minute. First I need to conduct a pat-down. Standard procedure for suspicious persons." "Suspicious of what?" "I showed you my base ID. I just bought groceries at the commissary I'm authorized to use." "Policy says anyone who can't immediately verify their identity gets searched." He pulled latex gloves from his pocket, snapped them on with theatrical precision. "Turn around, hands on your vehicle." Every instinct screamed danger. This wasn't procedure. Real military police would have verified my ID through base security in seconds. This was something else. But I was in civilian clothes, alone in a parking lot as the sun set, with a cop who'd already shown he wasn't following standard protocols. I turned around, placed my hands on my car, tried to keep my voice steady. "This is unnecessary. You can call base security. They'll verify me in 30 seconds. I'm base security, now spread your feet." I widened my stance, the position making me vulnerable, exposed. A proper pat-down should take 30 seconds, quick check for weapons, professional, minimal contact, done by someone of the same gender when possible. Doyle took his time. His hands started at my shoulders. Too slow, too much pressure. Moved down my arms with his palms flat against my biceps, squeezing slightly. Then moved to my sides, his hands sliding along my ribs in a way that already felt wrong, too intimate, too deliberate. "Officer, this is inappropriate. I'm conducting a lawful search. Stay still." His hands moved to my waist, then lower, palms pressing against my hips with pressure that had nothing to do with checking for weapons. Fingers spread wide, covering more area than necessary, moving with intention rather than procedure. Then his hands moved to my stomach, sliding around to my front, fingers splaying across my abdomen in a way that made my skin crawl. One hand moved higher, palm pressing against my ribcage just below my chest. "Stop. This isn't a pat-down. You're groping me." "I'm being thorough. You never know what people hide." His hand slid higher, fingers deliberately brushing the underside of my breast through my t-shirt. I jerked away, spinning to face him. "Don't touch me like that." "Like what? I'm conducting a search." "You're committing sexual assault." His expression hardened. "You're being uncooperative. That's suspicious behavior." He grabbed my wrist, yanked it behind my back, forced me to turn around again. I said, "Stay still." His hand went back to my stomach, this time sliding lower, fingers pressing against my lower abdomen, moving toward the waistband of my jeans. I tried to pull away, but he had my wrist twisted up between my shoulder blades, pain shooting through my arm, keeping me immobile. "Please, someone will see." Nobody's paying attention, and even if they were, who do you think they'd believe? A cop doing his job, or some woman making accusations? His hand started to slide into my waistband when headlights swept across us. A base security patrol vehicle pulling into the parking lot. Doyle stepped back immediately, released my wrist, smoothed his uniform like nothing had happened. The military police vehicle stopped 10 feet away. Staff Sergeant Martinez got out, his expression already showing concern at the scene. Civilian woman against a car, looking distressed. Base security officer too close for professional interaction. "Everything okay here, Doyle?" "Yeah, just verifying this woman's right to use the commissary. She couldn't immediately produce proper ID." Martinez looked at me. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I straightened up, my hands shaking, my t-shirt disheveled where Doyle's hands had been. "No, this officer just sexually assaulted me during what he called a pat-down." "That's bullshit." Doyle's voice rose. "I conducted a standard search. Standard searches don't involve hands on breasts and fingers in waistbands." I looked at Martinez directly. He groped me, deliberately, while holding my arm behind my back so I couldn't stop him. Martinez's expression shifted from concern to cold. "Doyle, what's her ID status?" "I'm verifying." "You've had 15 minutes. Either she's cleared or she's not." Martinez walked over, looked at my IDs still in Doyle's hand. "Let me see those." Doyle handed them over reluctantly. Martinez examined my base access card, his eyebrows raising slightly. "Ma'am, this says you're DoD civilian. What do you do on base?" Here it was, the moment I could reveal who I was, watch Doyle's world collapse. But I needed Martinez to hear what happened first, to document the assault before rank complicated everything. "I work in aviation operations, training and development." And Officer Doyle stopped you why? He said there were reports of theft in the parking lot, asked for my ID, took it to his car for 15 minutes, then said he needed to conduct a pat-down that included groping my chest and trying to put his hand down my pants. Martinez looked at Doyle, with an expression that suggested he'd heard this story before. "You conduct that search alone?" It was just a quick pat-down. Base security policy requires 2 officers present for any search of a female subject. You know that. Martinez pulled out his radio. "I'm calling the provost marshal. This needs to be documented." "That's not necessary. It was just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I could feel my voice rising, despite training telling me to stay calm. "You put your hands on my breasts and tried to get into my pants. That's not a misunderstanding. That's assault." Martinez was already on the radio, calling for supervision. Within 5 minutes, the parking lot filled with official vehicles. The provost marshal, the base security chief, a female MP who took me aside to get my statement, while male officers dealt with Doyle. The female MP was professional, gentle. "Ma'am, can you describe exactly what happened during the search?" I recited it clinically, hands on ribs too high, palm on my stomach, fingers brushing my breast, hands sliding toward my waistband, all while he held my arm behind my back to prevent me from stopping him. "Did he penetrate your clothing at any point?" He started to. His fingers were going into my waistband when Sergeant Martinez arrived. She photographed the position where Martinez had found us, documented everything with precise detail. "Ma'am, what's your full name and position on base?" I pulled out my CAC card from my wallet, the one that had been in my purse all along, the one Doyle never asked to see because he was too busy deciding I needed to be searched. Handed it to her and watched her face change as she read it. "You're Major Bennett, the 57th Wing flight instructor?" "Yes." "Oh my God." She looked back at Doyle being questioned by the provost marshal. "He assaulted an Air Force major." The word spread through the assembled officers in seconds. I could see them looking at me differently now. Not civilian victim, but field-grade officer. The provost marshal approached personally. "Major Bennett, I apologize. This should never have happened." "Your apology doesn't undo the assault, sir." "No, ma'am, it doesn't." He looked back at Doyle, whose face had gone from defensive to ashen as he realized what he'd done. "I'm placing Officer Doyle under arrest immediately. This is being investigated as sexual assault on a military officer." Doyle tried to protest. "I didn't know she was an officer." "You didn't ask." The provost marshal's voice carried across the parking lot. "You had her ID, had access to the base security database that would have shown her status in 10 seconds. You chose to spend 15 minutes in your car, then conduct an inappropriate search instead of doing your job." They arrested Doyle in the commissary parking lot. Real handcuffs, not the pretend courtesy holds officers sometimes use on each other. Read him his rights while shoppers watched, while his career imploded in the same parking lot where he'd assaulted me. The investigation moved fast. Security camera footage showed the entire stop. Doyle approaching me, taking my IDs, making me wait, then conducting the search with his hands clearly going places no professional pat-down justified. Audio caught my protests, his dismissive responses, the assault continuing until Martinez arrived. They found text messages on Doyle's phone to other base security officers. "Got a hot one in the commissary lot. Gonna make her wait a while." And later, "Search time. Perks of the job." He'd done this before. Investigation found 11 other women he'd stopped, searched, groped, under the pretense of security checks. All had complained. All had been dismissed as misunderstandings or told searches were policy. None had been a field-grade officer. None had been someone the system would listen to. Until me. The court-martial took 6 months. I testified in my flight suit, the major's oak leaves on my shoulders, the patch marking me as an F-35 instructor pilot. Described being stopped without cause, having my IDs taken, being groped during a search that violated every protocol and policy. The prosecutor played the security footage, showed Doyle's hands on my ribs, on my stomach, brushing my chest, sliding toward my waistband. Showed me trying to pull away. Showed him holding my arm behind my back. showed the clear violation visible even on grainy parking lot cameras. Doyle's defense tried to argue it was a legitimate search I'd misinterpreted. The prosecutor asked why a legitimate search required 15 minutes of making someone wait, followed by touching their breasts. The defense had no answer. The panel convicted him on all charges: sexual assault on a military officer, abuse of authority, conduct unbecoming. Sentenced him to 8 years at Fort Leavenworth, dishonorable discharge, loss of all benefits. But the real justice came from the systemic changes. All 11 women came forward again. Their cases were reinvestigated. 5 had enough evidence for additional charges against Doyle. 3 identified other base security officers who'd done similar things. Nellis reformed completely. New policies requiring 2 officers for any search, mandatory body cameras, independent oversight of all security stops. 4 other security personnel were investigated. 3 were fired. 1 faced criminal charges. The violation remained. Something that stays when someone uses a badge to commit assault. When authority becomes an excuse for predation. When doing your job means deciding who's vulnerable enough to victimize. My name is Major Sarah Bennett. I'm in the United States Air Force with 12 years of service. And I learned that bad cops make calculations about who's vulnerable, who'll stay silent, who can be assaulted without consequences, because it's just her word against his badge and uniform. Officer Doyle touched me inappropriately because he saw a woman in civilian clothes in a parking lot and thought no one would believe me. He learned I was an Air Force major when the Provost Marshal read my SAC card. By then, the cameras had recorded everything. His techs had documented his intent. His career was over, all because he couldn't spend 10 seconds checking the database that would have shown my rank before deciding I needed to be groped in a commissary parking lot. The violation doesn't fade, but Doyle's got 8 years at Leavenworth to think about the database search he didn't run, the policies he didn't follow, the calculations he made about vulnerability that turned out to be catastrophically wrong. Sometimes the woman you grope in a parking lot turns out to be a field-grade officer who ends your career and reforms your entire security operation. Doyle learned that too late. But every base security officer at Nellis knows it now. And 11 other women have justice because I was the one with rank, with resources, with the ability to make the system listen when it had ignored them. I didn't need to be a major to deserve better than being sexually assaulted while loading groceries. But being a major sure helped make sure Officer Marcus Doyle faced justice for treating women like his personal opportunity for violation. And that's worth every moment of standing in court, reliving the assault, making sure he never gets to do it again, to anyone.